Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. Today guys, I bring you the Dark Mage. This is a solo Nightblade build made for Murkire. This is more of an advanced build, so if you are kind of uncomfortable with this build, I guess you could go with a different setup if you wanted to make it a little bit more survivable. It has really good survivability though. We are playing on a Nightblade, and they are always survivable. Now, with this one, I did go Argonian because we are a light armor build on this. So, as you can see, though, we do have a 31,000 magicka, 24k health, 11k stamina, 1,472 magic recovery with a 611 stam recovery. I wish I could do something about that stam recovery, but there's not a whole lot we can do with it. We do have a 2,111 spell damage. But when we drink our pot, because we are an Argonian, that's the one other reason why I chose it, because Argonian gets all resources back when they use a potion. We do go up to a 2533 spell damage with a 1673 magic recovery. In light armor, you don't get as much resources back on heavy attacks as you do heavy armor, so that's why I have a higher magic recovery. We do have a 20k spell resist with a 18k physical. With this build though, the way it's set up, you don't get as much resistance time either, so you have to be really careful with that. But we do go up to 25k spell resist with a 24k physical resist, which is good. Actually, we go a lot higher when we're fully buffed. Oops, let me buff up here. With everything, we go up to 26, 25. So, really good trade-off there, and with those higher resistances, we can actually mitigate a lot of damage with this build. Moving on down here, we do have the Lady Mundstone for the higher resistances, and we are using Witch Mother's Potent Brew. You can use Tri-Stat food with this, which would help with your stam recovery and your magic recovery. It'd help with both, so. But your magic recovery will drop quite a bit. So, just letting you know. That's why I'm saying this is more of an advanced build for solo play. Moving on to the gear now. As I said, with this build, we are using the Dubious Camera, or the Witch Mother's Potent Brew, and we are using the Spell Power Pots, because we don't have a way to buff our Spell Power. So, using the Spell Power Pot is the best option. Moving on to gear, though, we are using the Nearnith set, which is really kind of an unusual set for a solo build. But it's whenever you deal direct damage, you have a 10% chance to summon a Lich Crystal that explodes after 2 seconds, dealing 11,000 magic damage to all enemies within 4 meters. It can occur every 3 seconds, so this thing can go off a lot. And it is pretty crazy. The next set we're using is Julianus, my go-to set. You can use Scathing Mage here. It's still a good option. But with Scathing Mage, you have to run a heavy helm, or a heavy shoulders, medium helm with, actually I would go heavy helm, medium shoulders, and then everything else light. Or you could, there's a lot of things. But with this is a 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy setup. The heavy is on the chest, the medium is on the legs, and then everything else is light. And as you can see, pretty much everything is Nirnhoned except for the chest, which is reinforced. That's how we reach those higher spell resists with the Lady Mundstone, and it works out really well. Moving on to the last set, we are using Shulks on this, but there is one other set that is better. You just have to do a little bit of work with it, and the way we have this set up, you have to do it on the other one too. But the other set that's good for this, and I know it's going to sound strange to a lot of people, but that is the Withered Hand set is very good on this. Withered Hand will give you more resources back when you kill enemies, which makes it really easy for you to manage. And you can go with a heavy armor setup then, and you don't have to go with as much recovery, because that Withered Hand is going to give you health and magicka back whenever you kill an enemy. But we are going with Shulks for the minor heroism, the spell damage, the spell crit, and the max health. That's how we have such a high spell crit right now with this build. Alright, So we are running 2 protective here instead of 2 healthy, because I chose the Argonian race for the fact of its max health, and we managed to reach our health part. So 2 protective with spell damage, and then over here we are running a healthy with a magic recovery. That is our only health we have on this build from anything besides our tri-stats. And then moving on down here, we are running 2 shulk staffs, both lightning, 1 infused weapon damage, 1 infused shock damage. And then on the gear pieces up here, like I said, you're running 3 tri-stats, 2 on the big pieces, and then on the smaller pieces you are running max magicka. Make sure you put everything Nirnhoned except for the chest, though. That's why, again, I say this is more of an advanced build. Light armor build, like light armor high resist builds take away a lot, and a lot of other races can't take that loss. So Argonian is best for this. If you're going to play like a high elf, it's better to go with heavy armor. If you're going to play a Breton, heavy armor. If you're going to play Dark Elf, heavy armor. Argonian is really the only one that can go light with this, unless you're playing a Nord. And if you're playing like an Imperial, a Nord, or any of those, you will get a lot bigger stamina pool. So, alright, let's move on to the skills. Starting with our passives. Make sure you get all your class passives. This is very important on solo builds, because you never know what skills you're going to be using from day to day, because you will switch out skills for certain situations. Moving on to weapons, destruction staff, all you need are those passives. You can use a resto staff with this build on the front bar, but to be honest, you'll lose one thing that you really need. So light armor, all the passives, medium armor, top 2, bottom 1, and heavy armor, the top 3. Moving on to world skills, soul magic, make sure you get these 2, it's very important for solo play. And then Fighters Guild, you only need intimidating presence. Mages Guild, you need to get the persuasive will along with Magicka controller. If you are using the ultimate, which I know some people will, just a reminder, these are expensive, so it takes a while to build up to, but it's a good thing where you are using the shulks for that. You do not need anything from the Sigic Order, but if you do use anything, use the elemental weapon. It is really good. It's a nice one to have on the front bar, and I'll show you where you can replace that with. Undaunted, you just need the Undaunted passives, but if you do use the Sigic Order skill line, make sure you fill in all of these, because all of these will play really well with this build. Because one of the things you have to understand about elemental weapon is when you activate it, to cast it, so when you do this, during the animation, your character will get the deliberation buff. So you will get that 30% minor or major damage, major protection. And then whenever you block, you'll also get a 5.8k shield. So alright, make sure you get the Undaunted passives and then racial passives. We are not using any Alliance War skills with these builds. So make sure you get the racial passives. And then moving on to Alchemy, Medicinal Use, Provisioning, Gourmand, and Connoisseur. Now, going over the skills, guys. Starting with the main bar, we are using Shock Clench. This is an awesome ability. It does cost a lot, and a lot of people tell me this, but it does do shock damage up front and damage over time to the target you hit. So it's a really good dot. Not a great dot, but a good dot. On top of that, it also stuns enemies and it deals damage to nearby enemies because we're using a shock staff. So next up, Crippling Grasp. This is this is like my favorite ability to use on the Nightblade damage builds, because it does do such great damage over time. It does grant you major expedition, and yeah, so it's really good, and it's got a slow movement debuff on him. It is single target, that kind of sucks. Moving on to the next ability, Dampen Magic, this is going to be our shield. And just so you guys know, this is an incredibly powerful shield with 24k, 12k shield. That's a really powerful shield in PvE. PvP, not so much, but oh well. Moving on to the next ability, we do have Dark Cloak here for our heal. This thing is crazy powerful, and also it gives you minor protection, reducing the damage you take by 8%. It also heals for 32% of your max health over 3.5 seconds, so good. Next on our bar is Inner Light. We have this here for the Max Magicka and the Major Prophecy. I know why, but it's good. On to the ultimate. The ultimate we have here is Soul Harvest. We have this here because it does lots of damage, and it grants us, it increases our damage against targets by 20% for 6 seconds, so really good. On top of that, it does apply Major to File, and their healing received and health recovery by 30%. It's just crazy. But it also, whenever you kill an enemy, you get 10 ultimate. That's what we have of this here. So on the back bar, you can use whatever ultimate you want. I just prefer to use the one that I'm going to show you. Onto the back bar, though, we do have Blockade of Storms. This is for off balance, guys. We are using a shock enchant on the front bar, and that'll allow us to get off balance. And we still gain the benefits of this no matter what bar we're on. And because of the changes to Murkire and enchants, whenever we use this, our weapon damage enchant stays up the whole time this is active, the whole 8 seconds. So it will keep recharging our weapon damage. Moving on to the next ability, we have Twisting Path. We have this here for another dot to boost our damage, because that's what it's all about when you solo play: boosting damage and having survivability. That's the main key here. So, and it's a really good damage ability. Next ability on our bar, of course, is Siphoning Strikes. This is going to give us Magicka back and health back whenever we do a light attack or heavy attack. And on heavy attacks, we do restore twice the value. Additionally, whenever it ends, we get 4,270 Magicka. So you want to cast this, wait for it to end, get your Magicka back, recast it. On to the next ability, we have Mirage. And Mirage is a really good one. It grants us Major Evasion, which reduces damage from area of effect by 25%, and grants us Minor Resolve and Minor Ward, increasing spell and physical resist by 1320 for 26 seconds. So it's another buff to our resistances. To the next ability, we have, again, Inner Light for the Max Magicka and Major Prophecy. That's another reason why, with the Mage's Guild, you want to get this Magicka controller passive. It does increase your Max Magicka by 2%. For each of these slotted. So this is actually 7% Max Magicka. And then last but not least, we have our famous Bolstering Darkness. This is a great defensive buff. If you want to use more of a damage thing, I would suggest using the Destruction Staff ultimate. It is a really good one. The problem is it's 250 ultimate, and the Mage's Guild is cheaper by 50, but it doesn't follow you. So either one is really good to put on the back bar if you want it, but you don't really need it. This thing still does great in solo play. Moving on to the CP, starting with the Red Tree, we do have 66 into Ironclad. This is going to reduce direct damage taken by 22%. Moving on over here, we have 2 into Light Armor, mainly because I have 2 points left over when I get done putting all my points in. So I always put it into the physical resist of whatever armor type I'm using on most of these builds. Moving on, we have 31 into Thick Skin. This reduces damage taken from damage over time effects by 13%. We do have 56 in the Hardy and Elemental Defender. This one giving you Physical Poison Disease reduced damage by 12%, and this one reducing Flame Frost Shock and magic damage by 12%. Moving on to the next tree, we have 40 into Bastion. This increases the effectiveness of our damage shields by 16%, which is really good because we are using that Dampen Magicka, and it does apply to this. On top of that, we do have Quick Recovery of 19, which gives us a 5% healing received, which is another good thing. We are an Argonian, so we also get 5% on top of that, so we get a 10% healing received, which is good. Moving on over here, we have 56 in the Warlord. This reduces break free cost by 20%. 23 into Sprinter, reducing our sprint cost by 14%. And if you didn't know, Light Armor did have an adjustment to its top passive. Now it gives you a reduced sprint cost. So with that 14%, we actually have a almost a 30% reduced sprint cost, which is really good for helping us get around, even with our low stamina. We have 23 into Bashing Focus because being solo, you will learn to bash enemies because you will learn their mechanics, and it will teach you, like, oh, this enemy's getting ready to do something, I need to bash them, and you'll knock them off balance. So 14% in here with the 23 points, and then moving on over here, we have Arcanist, 43 points, giving us increased magic recovery by 10%. 43 into Tenacity, also giving us 10% of our magic return on our fully charged heavy attacks. So this is really good. If you want, you can take this up to 75. That will get, or 76, which will give you 14%, or 75. A lot of people are telling me that the math was off. It's actually 14% at 75. But according to a lot of the people that have studied or tested this, it is 13.99% at 75. It just reads it as 14. I don't know why. But I could be wrong. Moving on over here, we have 56 in the Tumbling, reducing our dodge roll by 20%, and then 26 in the Shadow Word, reducing our block cost by 11%. We do block with this build, just not all the time. And then moving on over here, we have 43 into Bless. This increases healing done by 10%. We do have 40 into Elfborn, increasing critical damage and critical healing by 16%. And then 43 into Elemental Expert, increasing Flame, Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 10%. And please remember that because we have all this, it doesn't make us super DPS, it just makes us really good at dealing damage. We do have 48 into Spell Erosion because we are not using the Destruction Staff Elemental Drain. But if you want to use this, you can. It's just, you do lose out on some damage. So, just gonna let you know. So, really good to have that 48 points in there. And then 16 into Staff Expert, increasing light and heavy attack damage with our Destruction Stabs by 10%. 40 into Mastered Arms, increasing our direct damage done by 16%. We're not doing a lot of direct damage, so... And then we have 40 into Thaumaturge, increasing our damage over time by, again, 16%. Overall, really good, well-rounded setup with this build, and we are going to go in here and show it off. So, just so you guys can see. And the reason why we have the touch, the destructive touch, is that way we can keep that up, by the way. And if you guys want to know the truth, there's a lot of penetration on this build because of how it's set up. And I don't even have my pots going. Now let me get my pots going. And if you are playing this in heavy armor, make sure you're using Bone Shield with it. Bam! Look at that. That's just... And this thing, like I said, it's really good because it's got decent survivability, but if you don't know how to play it very well, that's why I say it's a little bit more advanced than the other ones. Too many two-handers here now. There we go. I knew I was gonna die. I was gonna make a mistake. But yeah, that's the build, guys. I know I died. I suck. But everyone makes mistakes. I'm not perfect. But it's a lot of fun to play this build. If you're really looking for something for solo play, this thing is pretty powerful. And for those asking, yes, it can do Maelstrom Arena. It's actually one of the surprising ones for Maelstrom Arena. But if you are going to do Maelstrom Arena, make sure you do use Eye of the Storm, and you are using, Swallow Soul here instead. Because Swallow Soul is going to give you another heal, and it does do quite a bit amount of damage when it crits. It can do up to 10k, so it's a really nice one, but the heal is mainly what you're looking for. That extra health in Maelstrom. But that, guys, is the Dark Mage. I know, not the greatest build, not the perfect build, but it does work out. It's really fun to play. I really like it. It's just something that's really cool. So here we go. So if you like this build, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more builds by me, you can hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.